Alrighty, we got one of the Grand Market Grand Prix matches here between Markus and Apostolosoruler. Still in the preliminary stages. This is game one.
Yep. So I believe in the prelims, they're playing 4 games, regardless of score.
Yep.
Cool. So I was thinking Falconer looks really interesting here with so many mixed types.
Let's see. We got Goons, All the Knights, Falconer, Bridge Troll, and Barge. It's a decent number of targets.
The actual games aren't great until you get some Bridge Trolls in play, though.
No, even with the Bridge Trolls, you might be mixing it up as Sculptor.
Oh, you are right. Falconer's less than. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a card like Sculptor or Captain that's like, you can gain a card or play a card costing up to 4, and then you reduce the cost of 5 cost cards down to 4, all of a sudden a whole new world of possibilities opens up. Falconer, not so lucky. It always gains a card cheaper than it, so if you play a Bridge Troll and it reduces the cost of, say, City down to 4, well, Falconer's also 4, so it still can't gain the cities.
Yep, okay, so it's like they both open Priest, Silver, so Apple grabs a Barge and then gets a City. Maybe a little early for City.
I think the City's alright, just because you already got 2 terminals. You're basically buying a village for $5. Normally, City's not a card you really want all that badly early because it's just village for quite a while. But at the moment, that's kind of what his deck needed, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. Okay, and Apple grabs another Priest, so now the City makes more sense.
Yeah, so this game is going to be really strong eventually. It's just going to take forever to get started.
Yeah.
I think Priest Silver did strike me as basically the only conceivable opening on 4-3. You don't want Armory because none of the 4s are super amazing en masse. You don't want a ton of Priests, just enough to get thin. And you do want to be hitting 5 and 6 here because that's where all the key cards are with Barge, City, Bridge Troll, Goons. And Priest Silver's pretty good at hitting 5.
5-2, I guess, would just be Barge.
Barge or Bridge Troll are the two that strike me as plausible. I guess you could just open Priest as well, maybe.
So our Knight's going to come into play here.
My guess is the fact that Dame Josephine's on top makes it a lot less likely, just because that's probably the worst possible Knight. So you have little incentive to touch the first one and then potentially uncover a better Knight for your opponent.
Yeah. I tend to ignore Knights on boards this strong, but with cost reduction, they are a thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing to consider is not only is the first Knight bad, but also just all the other 5s are really good. So buying a Knight means passing up on City or Barge or Bridge Troll.
Okay, so we're going to see Cities empty pretty soon, which is obviously the key card on the board, being the only village, and there's a lot of good terminals you want to play here.
Yes. Well, there is one other village. There's Dame Anna somewhere in that Knights pile.
There is Dame Necropolis.
Not Dame Anna, Dame Molly. I misspoke.
That's why you just call her Dame Necropolis.
Yeah, Dame Necro.
So far, we've seen a decent amount of frog goons.
It is kind of cute. You can play Goons as Way of the Frog, and get the +1 victory point thing anyway, just because the Goons is still in play, even if you played it with the Way of the Frog thing instead of normally. The downside is I don't really want to top deck my Goons all that bad.
And I kind of want the attack at this point. It's not negligible at all.
Yeah.
Cities haven't activated yet. They each have 1 Barge.
All right, Markus is calling it.
I mean, Markus has been drawing really badly. He's definitely probably turn and a half to 2 turns behind.
Fast game.
Okay. Fast game. 6-minute game.
Alrighty, game 2. What do we got going on here? A lot. Trashing is Ratcatcher, Forge. Villages would be Village Green, Acting Troop, potentially Diplomat. Draw, Council Room, Tactician, Experiments, plus buy, Charm, Council Room. You can also gain things off of Forge. Tactician's also plus buy. So a lot of stuff going on
I think
here.
I'm playing with tact here, just because the only payload's patron.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say no tactician. I mean,
There is, as TZ points out, the tactician village green thing.
Yeah, Oh yeah. So I mean, Patron's not terrible payload for the tactician deck, and there is some synergy with Village Green, where you play the tactician, you discard a hand of Village Greens, and potentially draw like another tactician or other cards that could allow you to play on. It's a little bit difficult though, because either you're discarding like a ton of Village Greens with tactician, in which case it's hard to set up, or you just discard one or two, and then you draw like a 1 or 2 card hand, and the chance you can play one isn't super high.
Yeah, at that point, I think you mostly take the village greens for next turn if you only have like one.
Yeah. And then playing without Tactician would allow you to play with Charm, which is not a bad card for sure.
Charm looks good here. Charm looks very good here.
There's nothing that synergizes all too well with Patron. In fact, I think there might not be anything that synergizes with it at all.
No reveal cards there.
Yeah, no way to get Patron's effect.
I haven't quickly read over Populate to see, like, am I missing something here? Does it reveal at any point? But no.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I was saying, I even looked at Populate quickly to see if it somehow revealed cards, but...
Oh, it does not.
It does not. Patrons are just vanilla here. So opening is what? Experiment Ratcatcher?
I was thinking Patron Ratcatcher.
Okay.
Bank up a few villagers early on, in case you draw, say, a council room with no village. You got the villager around, and you could open, Patron Silver or Patron Experiment as well. But I think I value trashing here. Actually, I mean, an alternative consideration could be the thing that helps your deck a little bit more short term, like Patron Experiment, and then building up to a big Forge turn. Like, you buy a Council Room, and then probably next time you play Council Room, you're hitting 7, and then you buy a Forge, and maybe you get thin that way. That's also worth considering. Maybe I like that better. Yeah, what about Patron Experiment into Council Room and then Forge? I think that's my new preferred line.
Are you buying another round of experiments turn 3 or 4?
Quite possibly. Depends on what I draw.
So Marcus grabs the Patron. Appo's thinking over their open.
Yeah, it does seem like one where you might think a bit, just because there's some... Like, it's clear that you're building, but I feel like there's some very divergent paths for how you do that. Maybe they're contemplating the double tactician thing.
Moira likes the double tactician deck. I do not think... The problem is you need to get really thin for that to work. So you need Forge to line up sort of perfectly with everything. You can do it, for sure.
But I don't think double tack needs to be so thin, just because, Tactician draws a ton of cards. You could still add a Council Room if you needed to.
Yeah, that's true. A Patron's just not the most efficient payload.
Yeah, that I think is the bigger downside to me, is just the action-based payload of Patron seems a bit weaker to me than Charm as payload.
Yeah, Tactician Village Green is really cute, but I don't think it's worth going for.
Yeah, that's not a good way to line it up reliably or anything. Like, maybe if you had a card like Artisan, you could consider, draw through your deck, Artisan gain a card, top deck Tactician, play other Tactician, discard Village Green. You have to discard 2 Village Greens, draw Tactician and a junk card, discard that, and then be reliably playing 2 Tacticians every turn, which would be kind of cool. But there's not a good way to reliably top deck Tactician that I can see.
No.
I mean, you could use Forge for it, but it'd be really inefficient. Like, with an empty deck and discard, you could Forge Tactician and Tactician just to get it down there.
Yeah.
And then, like, trigger a shuffle or something. It'd be more effort than it's worth. What do we see for the openings?
Patron from both.
Ratcatcher Experiment versus Patron Silver. That's an interesting combination of buys. Wait, am I reading that right? No, it's...
No.
Oh, I
misread
that. Experiment's turn 3.
Silver Patron.
Okay, so they both open in Patron. Okay, yeah, now I'm following that more. Patron Silver, Patron Ratcatcher both seem reasonable opens to me. Yeah, the Silver thing suggests to me that they're going for Forge. I would have thought Experiment is a little bit better there, just because you have the potential very high roll of, if you find the Experiment's turn 3, you can buy Counter Room and trigger a shuffle that's got your Counter Room in it, so that you potentially see it turn 4, but if not, it's top deck for turn 5.
Okay, Apple grabs a charm, so does Marcus.
Wait, what?
They both get charms.
Oh, they already had a Counter Room. Okay, now that makes more sense. I was about to say, for
they
his
each
first
have a Counter Room already.
Yeah.
Got the Counter Room, there should be a Forge.
Yeah, I would... oh, no, we'd...
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Curious.
Counter Room Experiment.
Maybe you just need a little bit more draw before you want to put the Forge in your deck to reliably guarantee that you see it with a huge hand.
Mm-hmm. Do you populate?
I could totally see populating at some point this game. I wouldn't want to do it super soon, but like even cards I don't want, like first? What's that?
I think I want to Forge first.
Oh, I mean, populate does give you a Forge.
It's true. Sort of want to get deck control.
Deck control is the thing I want before populating. Because once you have some deck control, like even the actions you don't want, like Tactician, you could forge them into stuff that you do want, like additional charms.
Okay, Marcus is going for the populate.
Marcus does not want deck control first. Marcus just wants cards. All the cards.
I get it. Populate is a drug, man.
It's so fun to click on, you can't say no.
It's really great. It is another one of the most fun things in Menagerie.
Well, they both managed to top deck a Council Room, so it could pay off.
Yeah. Alright, Ratcatcher activates Diplo here.
It's kind of cute. Well, it hasn't fully paid off. They might draw a Council Room or something here if they're lucky off the Village Green.
Surely you draw here.
I would take the gamble.
With Forge in hand, like... Okay.
Yeah, that pays off.
Pig the Patron, sure.
I wonder why they pigged the Patron rather than just playing the Village Green there.
I guess they want to think about playing the Village Green for next turn.
They might also be thinking about discarding with Tactician or something.
Forging for attack and then gain and play.
Okay, well, it looks like they managed to kick off here, so this is looking pretty good.
Oh, right, they already have attack. They don't need to forge for one. Yeah, they can do some cute stuff here, and they've got most of the cards in their hand, so they can get a nice forge in. Okay, Village Green is coming out normally.
Tactician into Charm seems pretty reasonable. There's a question how many coppers you're trashing with it.
How many coppers are we trashing with it? That's a good question. John, do you want to populate again? Are you that? Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a good Forge Trash here, then populating a second time is not bad.
Yeah, you're playing double Tactician. I have 2 Tacticians in my deck.
So if you forge... Best way to do this. Are you, by chance, like, touching your microphone or something?
I just moved and it got jostled.
Okay. How are we hitting 10 here? Are we hitting 10? I mean, you could just hit, like, 5 plus 2 charms. Wouldn't be bad either. I think ideally I'd like to buy Populate again. I don't know what this bottom card is.
Oh, interesting. Moyle wants to forge his acting troop. I kind of want those villagers.
Acting troop estate just seems ever so slightly worse to me than forging the
They do.
tactician. They do it anyway. Um,
Okay, so it looks like we are populating again.
I wonder why they prefer to do it that way. It gets an estate out of your deck, which is one argument in its favor. On the other
We are.
hand, with Forge and Abundant Draw, having just like a generic junk 2 cost like a state can be kind of nice when you're trying to like match up cards to hit a particular number, like get exactly 8 or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um,
And we are playing double tactician now, in that we have 2 tacticians in our deck.
that is
How
true.
long they will stay in the deck remains to be seen, but they are there.
They are technically at 2 tacticians.
They may just be pigs for now. Who knows? Will we see a 3rd tactician add to the deck? Are we going to see more populating?
Apo is playing that really fast. I have to suspect that was underplayed a little bit. Right?
Hmm.
Maybe they're just really sure what they wanted, but
I mean, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I would have thought about how many coppers to trash with that forge for a bit longer.
or I don't know, just gain playing a little bit more. Like you could gain a forge and reforge a second thing, or basically, I don't know. Gold just seems gross to me. And if gold's the best thing you're getting to gain and play in the same turn, I feel like you could do better than that.
Okay, and they are greening already. Piles are starting to get a bit low, but I'm not sure if we need to take a province yet.
Yeah, I mean, these decks potentially do like 4 or 5 provinces in a turn. So it is not ridiculous to just sit back and not green. Buy one more populate. If you populate again, how bad do you have to worry about the piles? Patron, Council Room, Experiment would all be low, as would Ratcatcher. You probably can't afford to populate another time, at least not without scoring. Just because, I mean, your opponent's got plus buy with Charm and Council Room, and they got Forge in their deck. I think they could empty those piles. So I think as Marcus, you probably do score here. How much? I'm not sure. Because you also have to worry about lowering provinces too much, in which case your opponent just ends the game on provinces.
Right, they each have 2 forges in their deck for milling. How many provinces could Apple realistically take? Like, let's say Marcus took 2. I think that's out of range of Apple.
My guess is they probably can't do 5. 2 might be a good number of provinces to take. A lot of choices here. Pigging a tactician.
So far, I believe every tactician has pig.
I mean, a serious consideration, I think, would be playing a tactician this turn. Like, it nukes this turn a bit because you don't get to use the charms or anything. But it sets you up to have a huge turn next turn and potentially win that turn.
Yep.
So, like, if you, I don't know, for example, forged 2 diplomats into a province, forged acting troop tactician into province, played 3 patrons, then play the other tech, and then you buy duchy. You're at 15, and you're gonna have a really good turn next turn, and probably win then. Is something along those lines might be what I would consider.
Makes sense.
I mean, actually, they don't need both tacticians for that though, so they might still do that with the other tactician.
So what are we forging here? We do still have an experiment if we want to forge a 5 and a a province.
Gold just seems really bad to me in a world where you, especially if you forged all your rat catchers, because then you can't turn the gold into province.
Yeah.
If you're doing like rat catcher diplomat into gold, then maybe, because then at least you leave open the possibility of forging gold and rat catcher into province next turn. Okay, so we're not doing the tactician line. We'll see what they plan on buying.
Okay, we are playing a second forge.
I assume we're doing Diplo and 2 rat catchers into a second province, if I had to guess. Maybe that's too risky. Maybe you just take 2 duchies or something. So Apo, they have 2 forges, so I can gain 2 provinces. I can probably afford to buy 2 provinces. Yeah, I don't know, 5 provinces still seems pretty hard to me. I don't think you need to play around 5 province.
And then this is 2 duchies, I guess.
Duchy Ooh, that's
another
bold.
populate. That is not what I was thinking. Okay, so can Apo win here?
So to pile, if Apo had, let's say 20 money to populate, and then forge something into province, something into estate. I don't know if they have 20 money. I don't know if they're going to draw here. A little bit close. Probably pick a tactician first. Yeah. Okay, let's see if they get there. Play one more council room, I think. So they've already got 4, 8, 10, 15 money in hand. They need to find 5 more money. I'm not sure whether they have that down there.
They do have a second forge down there. What else is down there?
I don't think they have much more money down there. They have another patron, I think. I'm pretty sure I'm playing council room here. I want to draw. I'm thinking the easiest winning line is 2 populates province estate. Is there anything else that works? I don't think they have enough buys to buy out the actions individually.
See, they have this council room and one more down there, and then they have a charm.
Oh, they have 3 forges.
They do. I thought Markus is the one who's populated.
Are you sure they have 3 forges?
I think Markus has the 3rd one from just populating this past turn.
That sounds right to me. Yeah. I mean, 3 forges would seem to be a very likely win. Okay, so... Oh, this is really close. Is that last card money? I think they might be 1 coin shy of the simple pile. Let's see. They got 8 in patrons.
Well, they still have forge to do gain and play.
8 from patrons. 4 from copper. That's 12. 16 with the silver. 19 with the gold. 21 with the charm. That looks like it might get there.
If you're short on money, you can forge experiments.
So here's the line I'm contemplating. What if we play all the stuff for money, and then you forge experiment council room into province, and then tactician into duchy? Then you need to buy 2 populates to win. They have 8 money from patrons, plus 9 money from, or 11 money from the. Oh, that's still 1 short. Yeah, that is 1 short. I was right the first time.
Money.
What?
Yeah, it's one shard.
Yeah, okay.
So you could use one forge to turn an experiment into a silver, second forge to turn. Oh, no, then you're one card draw short.
They can take a tie. Uh, oh, wait.
Oh, they did have a last money down there.
Okay, this is just a win then.
This is exactly a win, yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering about maybe a line where you gain a gold off of forge, then use the other forge to gain a province, and then buy 2 populates in a state. I don't think they had the cards available for that.
Okay, well, good stuff to Appo for spotting that win. Definitely a tricky one. I think they had to track there to figure out what their last card was.
Right, so 2-0 for Appo. Game 3. Oh no, Swindler.
Swindler.
You can take over for this one. I'm just gonna.
I mean, I don't know too much about Swindler. I've had it banned since Banlist came out.
Yeah, same.
I believe it was the first card I put on my ban
in the
list.
last 2 years.
The last game I remember playing with Swindler was a game against a friend where I swindled one of their provinces into a prince, and they resigned, and then I put the card on my ban list.
Right, DZ is saying. Wait, DZ, do you subject yourself to this card? If so, I'm sorry, but they're suggesting that Swindler is really bad in Shelters Kingdoms, which that does sound right. If your Swindler hits their shelters, it just trashes it for free. Yeah, I mentally read off any Kingdom with Swindler. What a miserable card.
Now, arguably, I want my Necro here, so I wouldn't particularly like Swindler trashing it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the rest of the kingdom, I'm also a little bit unsure as to what we're doing. Even if I were to kind of mentally block out the Swindler, you've got a awkward situation as far as villages go. You got Necropolis, which isn't a good village, and you got Snowy Village, which is not good as a main village in your deck because you don't want a bunch of them because they don't stack well at all. But if you don't have a bunch of them, then you have trouble finding like the one village you do have. Especially with cantrips like Sanctuary and Wishing Well, you're really sad if you play those after playing Snowy Village.
Yeah. Snowy Village is such a niche card. Like, I had such high hopes for it when Menagerie came in. And I just really haven't found a lot of decks that can effectively incorporate it.
Yeah, Snowy Village, it's not bad. I'm not going to say it's a bad card. It's bad in kingdoms where it's your only village. It's good as a supplemental village.
I mean, it goes great with villagers. Okay, interesting. The very early Snowy.
Marcus trying to think about which card they want to leave on top. They decided it's the Wishing Well. That's not the choice I expected. I would think early game you value the Forager pretty highly. What are the thoughts on opening Forager? I think opening Forager is fine. I think we're talking in general, just based on the way you worded that question. Like it's not good at hitting 5, and so in kingdoms where you want to hit 5 really badly, opening Forager might not be the best. But it is a non-terminal trasher, which means it can often pair well with maybe another terminal action card you were adding to the deck.
Goes great with a non-drawing terminal in terms of the open.
It's hard to say. I haven't even thought about what I'd open here. I have trouble evaluating this kingdom just because...
I think I'm opening Swindler Forager.
I don't know what to do with Swindler.
Forager is going to activate before anyone's trashed a copper on purpose because of Swindler. So probably Forager Swindler. Like, I need trashing. So far, these Wishing Wells have been very accurate. This is probably another Sanctuary.
That's why they're called Wishing Well, not wishing poorly.
Grave Robber.
That is not what I expected. Is there something good in the trash? No? Maybe they're anticipating some good card getting trashed by Swindler, and they're preparing in advance. Like, I want to snag whatever card I trash from their deck.
I'm totally unprepared for Grave Robber Swindler if this turns out to be a thing.
It sounds like such a miserable thing. So something I was thinking about a second ago is, I don't know if this is the most strategic thing, but I wanted to do it just because it allows you to not have to think about Swindler. Is I would have liked to build like a Sanctuary Golden deck, where your deck is Sanctuary Gold, Silver, Province, or something like that. And then you just buy Province every turn, exile it again, and then you have no cards in your deck or discards. So Swindler literally can't hit you. The problem is, even if you build that deck, Witch could still put curses in there, and then your deck is no longer golden.
And there's no draw to get around that.
Yeah.
I suppose maybe with like 6 cards you could have a Wishing Well.
Well, the problem is, even if you have a Wishing Well, if you have a deck that's 6 cards, now there's stuff
you can
down
bottom
there.
deck it. Yeah.
Well, just in general, there's cards down there that the Swindler could hit.
Oh yeah, right, Swindler. That's how it works.
Like it hits your Sanctuary and turns it into a Witch or a Grave Robber or something, or it hits your Silver and turns it into a Lookout.
Yeah, you could just be dead in the water. Gold is okay here, I guess. I don't know.
I can't even comment on it. I mean, if nothing else, gold can't be swindled because there's nothing worse that they can give you than a gold. It also costs 6. In kingdoms that are as miserable looking as this one, I can't even muster the energy to complain about gold buys. I'm not even sure it's wrong. There's nothing right looking.
I mean, how big are you building here? Besides, like, how many action cards are you adding here?
I have no idea. Again, my impression of these games with Swindler and such is that you're basically just like flipping coins to determine a winner. If you look at the stats on skill multiplier and which cards are
Swindler's is way down there.
Swindler's is egregiously bad. It might be the worst. It's not one of the worst. Let me look at it.
I think like Possession gives it a run for its money, but Possession has nonsense stats because there's like 3 gains in the stats for it.
Yeah, so Swindler's skill multiplier is a cool 0.8. Which is...
Whereas like Black Market and Recruiter are on the like 1.1, 1.2 scale.
Yeah, let me pull up the full statistics.
Okay, another successful wish. Get to kill a curse here. And we cannot play all these cards because of Snowy.
Mount Bank is 0.84. Even that's higher than Swindler. Rebuild as well at a whopping 0.84. Tournament is a whole 0.87. Witch is 0.84. Well, yes, Swindler is the absolute worst in the game by a decent margin, it looks like, as far as making the game more or less random and the better player not very likely to win. And we have what is, I believe, tied for second worst in the form of Witch in the same kingdom. So this sure is something here.
Yeah, a bit stumped. I really don't understand what this Grave Robber is doing.
My guess is it was probably planning on Swindler hitting some good things and then gaining those things. Like, for example, if you hit a gold, it doesn't hurt them, but it does put a gold in the trash.
Yeah.
And the Grave Robber can top deck that. Just gaining the stuff that's currently in the trash is not exciting me. It's all a bunch of threes and stuff. So this Grave Robber is like a workshop or an armory, I guess, is maybe a little bit more accurate because it gains a bunch of random 3 costs and then top decks them. That's not
curses are
amazing.
So Marcus has 0 curses in their deck versus Apo with a cool 4.
Do you just province here? I'm going to say no, just because you're right at the bottom of a shuffle. I think I'd rather put something into the shuffle, but
Agreed.
I'm not totally sure. All right, yeah, Grave Robber Wishing Well. I'm not sure if the Grave Robber is worth it or not, but it could be. In the in-game Grave Robber is nice because you can actually. I was about to say in the in-game Grave Robber is nice because you can gain provinces with it, but you don't have a whole lot of 5-cost actions in your deck to be targets for Grave Robber. You'd be really happy if you lined it up with your Witch, and maybe that's the idea, is you've got this Witch that you don't really care about anymore now that the curses are out, and I'd be really happy if I could find that in the same hand as my Grave Robber. Marcus's deck is thin enough to make that not unlikely to happen, and so maybe their plan is just going to be to turn the Witch into a province.
Suppose you can probably kill the Lookout this turn since you've gotten rid of most of your junk cards.
So my guess is they were looking for Witch. We see that they had multiple Wishing Wells in their hand, and then they're wishing for these stop cards, copper and gold. And generally, I would say if there's a specific card in your deck you're looking for and you're trying to draw it that turn. So, for example, Witch here, I think is probably the target for this idea of grave robbing it. Then, with your last Wishing Well, if you haven't found the Witch yet, you'd obviously want to wish for Witch, just to give yourself one last chance of finding the Witch. But actually, if you're playing a Wishing Well from your hand that is not the final wish, then you want to wish for something else. Basically, whatever card is A, not the card you're looking for, and then B, the most common card in the left in the deck. With the idea being, if the Witch was the card that was currently on top, well, then your next Wishing Well is going to draw it anyway, in which case you're happy either way, even if you wish for something else, because you're going to find the Witch regardless. But if the Witch is 2 from the top, well, then wishing for a junk card can potentially clear that card out of the way, and then the next Wishing Well can get you all the way to the Witch.
Yep. You gotta wish for the Witch.
That was a tongue twister with the Wishing Wells and the Witches.
Yeah, we just saw Swindler do the reverse of what it does in the opening and turn a curse back into a copper.
So I'm not totally sure what this Grave Robber is doing. I thought the goal was going to be to kill the Witch. Maybe they want to kill off the Lookout instead and save the Witch for later.
That was my thought.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Lookout's also run its course, so trashing that does not seem any worse than trashing the Witch. Now, does Apostolosoruler have both of the sanctuaries?
Let me check. Yes, they do.
I'd maybe think about getting a sanctuary for Marcus sometime right around now, because I mean these decks aren't like super robust, and you're about to be putting provinces in them, and so I would not mind stashing those provinces away. Also, stashing your provinces away might help protect against, as well as duchies, swindler randomness, where they mill a province and then surprise province pile out, or they turn your duchy back into a witch. Stuff like that. We played the witch again. I'm not sure what we're doing with the grave robber. There's a gold in the trash, so maybe this turn the goal is to get the gold out of the trash. That seems like a reasonable use of the card.
Mm-hmm.
That did not seem like a good order to me at all. It's like a really bad order. Why the... What?
Yeah, they can't draw the gold.
Yeah, if you play the Snowy Village first, and then you play the Grave Robber, you can top deck the gold and draw it with the Wishing Well. Obviously, this order doesn't work because you couldn't play the Grave Robber and then the Snowy Village, or you'd be out of actions after playing Grave Robber. Or maybe they're planning to kill the Forager, and so it didn't matter. I was eyeing that gold that's in the trash, though. Well, given that they didn't want to do that,
They
Forager
must be
into
Forager.
Sanctuary. Wait, what are we doing? I'm
How
really
do we want to
confused by
kill that
this.
silver? I guess you can.
This is not making sense to me. This sequence of plays.
What do they see that I don't?
Or what do they not see that you do? Maybe they didn't see the gold in the trash. I don't know.
They
Gain
gain
a
a snowy.
village.
Okay, well that does top deck a snowy, which is a mixed bag at best.
I don't like this turn. I'm not a fan. Now what? Sanctuary Duchy or something? Just province?
In a while.
I feel like they did not get nearly enough out of that turn compared to what they could have.
Okay, Avo grabs the gold from the trash.
That being said, Apa's deck just seems like it's not as together. And so I think Marcus is definitely in the lead regardless.
I'd like to see a sanctuary from Marcus, but I would agree they're in the lead.
So DC wants to grave rob the Swindler. I think the question is not is it worse than Silver. I think the question is it worse than Forager. Forager is worth a lot of money, but it's expensive to feed here.
I mean, you can forge cards and then grave rob them back. There is that.
Yeah, the big limitation there. I mean, there's something of an action limitation. Having to play your grave robber just to gain junk to forage, but also it's very draw intensive. To say like have a forager and a gold, then grave rob and redraw the gold. That's 4 cards worth of draw there, which is a lot for what you're getting out of it compared to just having treasures or whatever.
So interestingly, Marcus now has 2 snowies, and now they don't.
So we gained that Snowy Village last turn just to kill it again. I assume the goal is to top deck it just to avoid a dud turn, but...
Okay, we killed that. Look out, we just got...
I like that he gained and played a Sanctuary. That seems good.
Certainly going to help keep them consistent. I don't really like this. Oh.
What are we undoing?
They want a snowy first? That would be weird. I don't know.
Did the same thing again. Maybe I'm missing something. So points are really equal, but I think that's deceptive. I think Marcus is in the driver's seat here, just because they've
I would
got a lot
agree.
better deck control. So they have, for example, a much higher likelihood of being able to threaten to double province on the last turn by grave robbing Witch and then buying a province. They might even do that this turn. Like, no need to hold off and risk dudding. Maybe just take two
Seems
provinces now
pretty
while you
winning
can.
to take 2 provinces in Marcus. I don't think Appo's realistically taking 2 provinces and a duchy.
Yeah.
Or a province and 3 duchies.
And now Marcus is figuring out what the bottom card is. Actually, wait. Is this just a bad order? No, this is... I think the question of whether to play the Wishing Well versus the Sanctuary first is a bit of a tough call. If you play the Sanctuary first, you guarantee that the Wishing Well hits because you will know for certain what the bottom card is. The downside is if you play the Sanctuary first, you're unlikely to be able to...
Exile the good card.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Is exile the province, which is what you're wanting to do with the Sanctuary. This looks like a double province hand in hand right now for Marcus. I would just take it. Forage
Agreed.
the Necropolis and then Grave
Grave
Rob the
Rob the Witch.
Witch.
And then you have Snowy set up for next turn.
Oh, why are we playing the what?
Guess they're taking province
Trashing
duchy.
Forager into
Wait, what?
gold.
Ganon playing a gold for a single province. That seems a lot more.
Maybe their plan is just to double this turn. I feel like if I had already successfully drawn my deck, I would just take the double. Because I think then all you need to do is buy one more province next turn, and you're risking a little bit less. This deck is far from guaranteed to draw, and so I would rather not put as much on my next turn to be able to draw everything and double or put myself in a position to double again. I'd rather take the double now and then hope I can hit at least one province the following turn. It's looking like they're going to get here anyway. Should be guaranteed now. What are these bottom 3 cards? There's a gold down there, which is what you want to find. And if you know what the other 2 cards are, which they should, then you should be able to guarantee that you don't miss. One's a Snowy Village, I think. And the other's a Sanctuary. So, yeah, this is just a guaranteed win. Wait, uh-oh. Oh, this is fine. They're going to play their Witch, and that works too. I was going to say, why are you playing the Witch? But they could just Grave Rob the Sanctuary instead, and same difference.
Right, they have a gold and a sanctuary down there, so that's fine. They have enough draw to get it all.
Yeah, I was thinking we just play the Wishing Well, and then the Sanctuary, and the Snowy Village, and then even if gold's on bottom, you find it. But you could also play the Witch and then Grave Rob the Sanctuary. I think you're getting the same way in the end, no matter what you do.
Okay, so GG to Marcus. And
The idea of
about
banning
doing that
Swindler is
again.
not that it's too strong or anything. As far as power level goes, it's not the strongest card. It's
No,
just
it's just
remarkably
very
miserable
swingy.
to play with. Yeah. Oh, here we have Swindler Light in the form of Cardinal.
Yeah.
Cardinal is
Knight.
starting to border on like weak enough that it's so often skippable as to not be that bad. But in games where Cardinal is good, it can be pretty miserable too.
I think
top deck
Cardinal's
attacks has the worst cards.
I think Cardinal's a very well designed attack in that it's strong, but only rarely. It's not stupidly weak like Pirate Ship, but it's not a very strong attack.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan one bit. It's way too random in what it hits. Like I was just playing a game the other day that was much closer than it should have been because they opened with Cardinal and it hit the 5 and then you unexile it hits the 5 again and then it's like turn 10 the first time you're playing your first $5 buy. And like in the average case, Cardinal doesn't pay off very well because most of the time it just like discards junk and then you're happy. but then you just get these like random wins for the person bought the bad card and it happened to pay off once. I very, very strongly dislike top of deck attacks as a mechanism, just because of their intense randomness.
They're not my favorite mechanic.
It's also not something you can play around very effectively. Like, oftentimes you can top deck stuff in interesting ways. So, like, Zombie Mason, for example, seems kind of random, but you can manipulate it to get what you want, like Artisan. There's not really a good way in almost any kingdom to seed the top, like the 6th from top card of your deck very effectively.
Yeah, you can't usually control your top deck during your opponent's turn is the problem.
Anyways, this kingdom. So we got all the stuff we need to build. Steward's good trashing. We got Destrier for draw, or Steward for draw. Workers' Village for plus action, as is Ghost Town. We got plus buy with Workers' Village. Artisan and Lurker are also gains.
I don't expect we'll see much Lurker.
I don't think Lurker is going to be the most important card, just because Artisan seems more efficient at gaining most action cards. I mean, you might buy it on 2, because opening Steward tends to lend itself to $2 hands, and so maybe you just evaluate that Lurker is better than nothing. But if we haven't seen that yet, I don't think we're going to see it now. How'd they end up opening? Steward Cargo Ship. That's...
And they collided.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. Well, collision on turn 4 is totally fine, because you can do what Apo did and buy Ghost Town to resolve the terminal collision. Colliding turn 3 is the really sad draw, which is what Marcus got.
So we are definitely going pretty hard in the Ghost Towns.
It makes sense. Ghost Town's a good card.
Like,
over the long term, Ghost Town's much weaker for your deck than Village is, because it's more or less equivalent to Village in its effect, but you only get to play it every other turn. And so you'd rather have one Village in your deck than one Ghost Town. That being said, in the short run, Ghost Town's on-gain effect is really nice, and often a good enough reason to buy it. For example, you can buy it in a pinch, like Apo did, where they saw neither of their terminals turn 3 and knew they were very likely to collide turn 4. Actually, they didn't collide turn 4. They bottom decked their cargo ship. But they were very likely to collide turn 4, and so you can buy Ghost Town
still the right play
to mitigate that, yeah. And also, it's just kind of like, it's like +1 card the first time you buy it. Because like the way you can think of Ghost Town is it's like -1 card the turn you're playing it, +1 card the turn after. But the first time you buy it, it goes straight to your hand without that -1 card effect. And so you're getting like an immediate +1 card. So it's like half of an expedition the turn that you initially buy it. So sometimes you buy it not because you need the action, but just because you're taking it for like the +1 card effect. It's like buying a ride for 3.
No better than ride. It goes immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Jackdaw. You have to make sure that you're able to play all your action cards, and so my guess is just the overriding concern there was they needed to buy a Ghost Town to be able to play this stuff.
Yeah, at this point, I think they're just trying to make sure they can kick off every turn. Marcus looks like he's got his deck under control now, though.
Are we taking an Artisan here? Like, I do really want an Artisan, although it's a little bit awkward to acquire it from Marcus, isn't it? Like, you have to pass up on a trash. They opt not to.
Ship. Oh, Poorhouse. Okay.
Yeah, I like Poorhouse's payload. There's no treasures that I really want to play with. You can get rid of the coppers really easily, and you have abundant plus buy, which makes Poorhouse easy enough to pick up. So I think Poorhouse is quite reasonable choice for payload here.
That is very cool, DZ. I did not know that, and I kind of want to try that version of Ghost Town now. It sounds pretty cool. Probably too strong for 3, but...
You should get it whenever you trash a village, because it's like a ghost village.
Hmm.
So what are we taking now as Marcus?
Workers Village, Ghost Town, Poorhouse.
Okay. I still really want an artisan. I guess it's just not working out super well. Because like I can't say with any confidence there was a specific turn where he should have got an artisan and didn't. But I would want an artisan. No, DZ, a ghost town is just a town where ghosts live.
They don't have to live there, you know, maybe they just have a summer house.
Ah, yeah, so it's a town where all the ghosts go in the summer. And then in the winter it's vacant and abandoned. That makes sense.
It's like a ghost town. I think Marcus is slightly in the lead though. They're just a bit thinner.
Yeah, Apostec still has it. They're a lot thinner, aren't they?
Yeah.
Apostec has a ton of junk in it. What happened?
Buys copper for Destrier.
Oh, is that what's happening? They're buying back the copies to get Destriers? Well, that's often a good play. I'm not going to say that in the abstract, buying coppers to get Destriers is a bad idea. But I do like the poorhouse idea, and buying coppers is somewhat at odds with that. So there's a trade-off there. I think I side with Marcus on which side of that trade-off is better. Yeah, 2 coppers for Destrier, that's starting to push it. 1 copper for a Destrier is a lot like buying a Peddler. Like if you put both a lab and a copper in your deck, the net effect of that is the same as like a poacher or a Peddler. And then if you trash the coppers later, then you're definitely fine with it. This is looking pretty on lock from Marcus.
Yep.
Just gotta watch out for piles. Ghost Town is low, and we have decks that can gain a lot of things. But I don't think Apo is actually in a position to pile out.
I still do want an artisan from Marcus.
At this point, the ship might have sailed. Like I would think the thing I'm ultimately looking to do is either like 2 lurkers and artisan, or 2 artisans, and then be able to use additional artisans for gaining and playing Destriers or something like that. But I think we're already hitting the greening phase now with 2 piles empty.
Yeah, and especially with a pile as easy to empty as Poorhouse or Destrier.
Can Marcus win this turn?
Possibly. How many workers villages do they have?
I don't know. So
looks like they have enough for 7 buys.
So 7 buys would be enough. You buy Duchy Copper, and then you would need to have 10 additional money. This looks like a win.
Yep.
Right? So you buy Duchy Copper, 5 Destriers.
Yep.
And they're overshooting that by 3.
Let's see if they find it. No.
Now this still. Oh wait, what? It even worked with Province. If you do Province Copper 5 Destriers, you're also winning. But obviously you can't do it with double Province. Were they not even looking for the pile out? Here's my guess. My guess is they tunnel visioned on the poorhouse pile out. Just because looking
Hmm.
at it briefly, poorhouse looks like the easiest card to pile out here. There's a there's only one more poorhouse than there is destriers, and they're a lot cheaper. But Marcus didn't have quite enough gains to empty the poorhouses and also score. Um,
Looks like Appo is resigning.
yeah, I mean it's over
Um,
anyway. If you don't win that turn, you're gonna win next turn as Marcus. So it's not like double province was a game losing mistake, but they did overlook a guaranteed win.
yep. Looks like Appo saw it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the match. Marcus came back to tie it up 2-2.
All right. So they'll both continue playing, and we'll see how the pool shakes out.
Yep. See you around.
See ya.